Welcome back to the channel. No videos during the week, so this is the first time seeing you since last week's by-elections, where we just had the 2. This week we've got 7 to get through, and there's plenty to get on with, so we'll get straight into it. And look, no real grand narrative this week, actually, to be honest. The Conservatives will say that they are back. I disagree, and we'll get into why in a minute, but they did have a few good results. But it's a mixed bag this week, so let's get into this straight away then. I'll try and keep the screen a bit better than I did last week. Sorry, I totally lost my bearings, having had a few weeks off from doing by-elections, and the results are going off the top of the screen, so I do apologise for that. We'll try and do better. So Williston and Thornton Ward, Cheshire, West and Chester. So look, this is a Labour council, but it is a safe Conservative ward. They've held this ward for over 10 years. And they held again 54% of the vote. They were down 7 points, which is neither here nor there, really. I mean, it is in the wrong direction, but like I say, it's not all that noteworthy. And look, a comfortable victory for the Conservatives up here in Cheshire West and Chester. 37%, majority, almost 700 votes in it. A big turnout of almost 43%, which is very, very good for a by-election, local by-election, that is. Look, I don't have too much else to say. I think this is a safe Tory seat in what is a Labour council, but Cheshire has these little pockets of pretty strong Conservative support. This clearly is one such. And look, it's a good result for them. They haven't seen a big vote share decline. It's a comfortable victory. So look, perhaps this is some evidence that there is a resurrection on the cards. I'm not buying into that just yet because, like I say, this is a safe area. And we'll get on to other reasons why in a bit later. Labour Party actually came in second place. They were down 9 as well, so a fairly modest decline for them too, based off the numbers we tend to see. Reform just behind Labour in third. They came straight in at 16% of the vote. So look, like I say, a good result for the Conservatives. I think they'll be obviously cheered by it, particularly because their vote share held up pretty well. But as we'll get onto in a minute, I don't necessarily think this heralds a comeback just yet. So next one up is the Rissingtons, Cotswold. Now, this one's very interesting. And I asked on X people in the Cotswolds, do you know why this happened? So what happened? Well, Greens were defending last up in 2023. And look, you can see last time out, the Greens got 57% of the vote. Now, in all fairness, there was only 2 parties standing. It was them versus the Tories. But they got 57%. Now they're down to 5. So the Greens lost 52 points since 2023, which is quite extraordinary. And I was told by a few people on X chimed in and said, look, it was a very popular candidate that the Greens had before. He was a local champion. And this time, perhaps that goes for the Liberal Democrats. The other theory was that it was just last time it was people who didn't want the Tories and the only option to avoid the Tories was the Greens. And now the Liberal Democrats have stood. That was where the vote went. So either of those may be true. But either way, a catastrophic decline for the Greens down to 5.5% of the vote. And the Liberal Democrats win, coming in at 37.5%, beating the Tories by about 6 points. So fairly close. Conservatives on 31%. But here's why. Like I say, I think it's too early to say as a comeback. Look, 11 points down here for the Tories. Now, look, it's not the worst, but it's not great either. In a seat they came second in, they're now down 11 points again. So, like I say, there's no consistent signs of a Conservative comeback for me. The Tories will say Reform has split the vote and lost the election for them. I disagree with that. Reform got almost 26% of the vote, coming straight in, finishing third. Look, I disagree, and if you're a Reform voter, please get in the comments and let me know what you think. But the way I see it these days, the Tories and Reform are not the same. They're not iterations of the same party. I think they stand for actually quite fundamentally different things. Because whereas Reform can say with their chest, for example, and this is just one example, that we are going to leave the ECHR, I don't think the Conservatives can do that. I think there are many people in the Conservatives who would take issue at that still. So they are still a divided party. And I don't think, despite all the bluster and stuff that comes from the leadership and from a lot of their supporters, I don't think that party is unified still. I think there is deep divisions within it. I think they're going to come out in the future as well, which again leans me into this theory that I don't think the Conservatives are back yet, although, like I say, some positive results here. So like we said, a 6-point majority for the Liberal Democrats over the Tories. Again, a very healthy turnout of 43%. This is heartening to see these turnouts being strong like this, that these are aberrations in fairness to the upside. We see them, of course, recently the average has been around 30% turnout, but this is great to see. More people voting is healthy for democracy, and I hope when we get our local elections in May, the full elections, that the turnout will be even more impressive. Up to Scotland next, Glenrothes, West and Kinlassie, and in Fife, SNP defending, SNP hold. Look, that's not a surprise. That's not a surprise. What is a surprise? So we'll just go through it. They got 44% of the vote, down 5 points. That's really neither here nor there. Look, SNP are going to win Scotland in May. They are going to be way ahead of second place. The interesting thing is who's going to be in second place. And Reform are looking to take that crown. And looking at this result, big alarm bells should be ringing for the Labour Party, because Reform came straight in and got 28% of the vote, almost. And actually were comfortably ahead of the Labour Party, 10 points ahead of the Labour Party, who previously here got 32%. So the Labour Party down 16 or 17 points. Look, again, like I say, that's alarm bells for Labour in Scotland. Now, if you watched my Scotland preview video I did a few weeks back before the new year, I said, look, in 2021, I think it was, when Scotland last elected for the Parliament, that wasn't a particularly good election for Labour. They didn't do very well. And at the moment, they're looking at probably doing even worse than that. So it's going to be very, very bad, very, very grim for the Labour Party. Of course, we've got this by-election now that is happening up in Greater Manchester, where maybe Andy Burnham runs. It's looking unlikely at the moment, because it looks like Keir Starmer's run National Executive Committee of the Labour Party won't allow him to stand as a candidate. But look, maybe if he does end up getting in, maybe there's a leadership challenge to Starmer before May, and then things maybe change. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. So look, the story here really is Reform beating Labour comfortably to second, and if they can do that in a lot of or in wider parts of Scotland in May, then that's going to be really a very seismic result, and we'll keep our eyes firmly peeled on Scotland on the 7th of May. Of course, I'm doing a live stream on the evening of the 7th of May, covering all the elections, covering the results as they come in overnight, so do come and join us. I know it's a school night, we'll be up late, but I think it'll be good fun. It'll be the first one I've done on the channel, and we'll have a laugh with it, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So the SNP hold their seat in Fife is the main story there. Turnout at 22% is not great. Leeswood, Flintshire. Now this one is fascinating. So last time, just 3 on the ballot paper, Labour, an independent, and another. It might have been 2 independents, I'm not sure. This time, quite different. There was a number, as you can see, a lot of different candidates on the ballot paper this time. Labour have lost, and they've lost in quite catastrophic fashion. So they are down 49 points. Now, let's factor into that last time there was far fewer people on the ballot paper. That does have an effect, of course. More options to vote for. So people last time maybe just put Labour to put something down. This time had something more closely aligned to what they wanted. But look, let's not water down. 49-point drop is extraordinary. In Wales, we've just spoken about Scotland and how Reform, based off that result we just looked at in Fife, are going to be more than a thorn in Labour's side, and possibly replacing them as second place. Well, look at this in Wales. Wales, if anything, is going to be even worse. But remember, bear in mind, Labour currently are in government in Wales. They have been ever since the Welsh Parliament was first established. So this is a catastrophic result, down to 12%, losing 48 points is really quite extraordinary. And Reform have sneaked in and won on 22% of the vote. Now that is, as I said on X, an extraordinarily low share of the vote to win on, 22%. But look, there's so many candidates, and this is British politics right now. It's very, very split. Interestingly, the second and third candidates were both independents or others. As you can see, it says either here, I think it's an independent, 21%, and another independent, around 20% as well. So the 2 independents got 40% of the vote. Reform managed to sneak in with 22%. So a very, very small majority of 22 votes, only 3 points for Reform. So very tight turnout. Unfortunately, we don't have a percentage there. Look, Reform are going to do well in Wales at Labour's expense. Obviously, Plaid are going to do well in Wales also at Labour's expense, and that's going to leave Labour, I think, with more results looking like this, just catastrophic falls in their vote share. So again, we'll keep our eyes firmly peeled on Wales as well as Scotland on the night of the 7th. Moving on then, and this is the last of the ones that happened on the Thursday evening. Central, you guys told me how to pronounce it, and I forgot to look it up, so you have to excuse me. Central Wymondham, I think somebody maybe said it was. Yeah, beg your pardon. Anyway, Central Wymondham in South Norfolk Council, and again, it's another Conservative hold, so they'll be very, very happy with that. They've held on 31% of the vote, which is not very high, but kind of typical for what we're seeing these days. So the Tories here down 4.6 points again. So again, really neither here nor there in terms of their vote share. So they'll be somewhat happy with that. Again, it's not a dramatic vote share fall off or anything like that. It's fairly respectable, and I think they'll be fairly happy with that. 30% of the vote, enough to win here. The Greens actually in second place. They were down 4 points to just under 26% of the vote, and Reform in third place. Improving on their 2023 score by 15 points up to 21 points. I thought Reform would do better here. I don't know anything about the ward. If you know, please let me know in the comment. Let us know in the comments. I thought Reform would do well. I think they're generally doing quite well in Norfolk, as far as I can tell. But didn't really come all that close here. 10 points in it. Finishing third behind the Greens. Maybe that points to that ward we spoke about, didn't we, in a few of the preview videos of some of the Green voters coming across from the Tories. Maybe it's one of those sorts of wards here. So look, a good hold for the Conservatives again. Positive, but like I say, I'm not buying into it yet. If this continues for a number of weeks, then maybe we'll start believing it. But for now, no. And majority of 91 for the Tories then was 5 points. So not safe by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely in lean sort of category or tilt category. 37% turnout again is good. It's healthy, which we like to see. Okay, the next two then were both in Derbyshire, and they happened on the Tuesday night for some reason. I don't know why, but they did. So these happened on the Tuesday the 20th rather than Thursday the 22nd. Codnor, Langley, Mill and Aldercar Ward, Amber Valley Council, and here Reform have somewhat stormed to victory actually. So Labour were defending, last up in 2023, and I did say, didn't I, when we looked at the previews last week, look, Reform here got 21% in 2023, back before Reform is what they are now. And they've improved 24 points to 45.6% of the vote, which is a very, very healthy share of the vote by all accounts in first past the post. And look, unusual, isn't it, to see those sorts of numbers at the moment, particularly with Reform, who are still breaking through. They tend to be winning in the mid to low 30s, but we do see some areas where they do push on into the 40s. And this is where they need to be, Reform. They need to be getting 40% of the vote in more places. Because, I think we'll see in a minute in the next one. We'll talk about that. But that's where they need to get to if they want to have a genuine shot, I think, at a majority government with an electoral mandate behind them as well. Again, the Labour Party down 21 points. Look, I said, haven't I? Expecting to see in May, in the elections that are happening, Labour drops of an average of 20 points across all their wards is what I'm expecting, and that's happened here, so down to 19%. It was still enough to finish in second place, and none of the others really worth talking about here. A comfortable majority of 346 for Reform, 26 points is safe, and a turnout here of 18% is very, very low. So interestingly, actually, to make the point, because I have said in the past, increasing turnouts may be to the benefit of Reform, because turnout it's starting from a very low point. If we go from the 2024 general election, my theory was maybe if Reform start winning and turnouts are increasing, that would suggest they're tempting in voters who didn't turn out to vote in 2024. But it would seem today, with higher turnouts in the two the Tories held on to, lower turnout here, maybe the lower turnout is still helping Reform. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And the last one this week was Horsley in Derbyshire, and this one's interesting. So Reform were defending. It was a Derbyshire County Council seat they won last year. And their vote share actually went up, not by any significant amount, 0.6, so essentially held stable. So they're on 35% of the vote, but the Greens have beaten Reform. They increased a healthy 17 points to get almost 44% of the vote. What's interesting here is Advance also stood. They're the other. On just that 1.9% of the vote. I actually forgot to mention they stood here in Amber Valley too. They beat the Conservatives, which again is not great for the Tories if they're going through the we're back coming back, the comeback story. Tories here were down 15 points. So again, this is what I mean. I'm not buying it just yet. Sorry to divert their go off piste from Horsley, but the Tories were down 9 points. Advance stood, but only got 2% here. Labour were down 6.5%, and the Lib Dems were down 2%. Now I think there's a bit of tactical voting maybe happened here, and I think it's potential that some Conservative voters voted for the Greens. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing the Greens a disservice. I did say last week, keep an eye on the Greens because they did well here previously. They did well here in 2025. They came in second place with 27% of the vote. And I just wonder, look, there's a lot of bitterness between Reform and the Conservatives at the moment. And those of the Conservative Party who are still in there who sort of despise Reform, I wouldn't put it past them to vote for the Greens to spite Reform. Maybe. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've got local knowledge of the area, please do get involved and let me know. Here, it's again, an 8-point margin of victory for the Greens. So not safe, but not all that competitive either. 250 votes in it. It's fairly comfortable. And again, we're around that 30% mark in terms of turnout. So that's all of our by-elections for this week. We will briefly go and have a look at what's in store next week. And I'm sad to say there is only one by-election next week, so we're not going to have much to talk about. If you've got anything you'd like me to talk about to fill in some time next week, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and do my best on that account because this won't take too long. So it's Bearsden South Ward in East Dunbartonshire. The Conservatives are defending last up in 2022. The Tories here on 23.2% of the votes, Lib Dems on 23.1%, SNP on 23.4%. So very, very close between those three. The SNP actually won the vote share last time, marginally by, 0.2%, with the Lib Dems in a very, very close third as well. Let's see if the Tories can hold on to this one. It'll be very, very interesting. It is, technically speaking, because the SNP are actually ahead slightly. So this, again, remember, this is single transferable vote up there in Scotland for councils. So with the SNP winning the largest share of the vote, although only by very, very little in this case, they won the first preference votes, but because it was so close, clearly the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats as well will have won seats on this council in the latter rounds of voting. So I'm not going to explain STV now. Please do go and look it up if you're interested. But essentially, it's multiple phases of counting the votes. The SNP won a seat, the Conservatives would have won a seat, and the Liberal Democrats would have won a seat as well, if not more. But obviously this time around, there's only one seat to go round. So with the SNP leading previously, and the Conservatives not doing as well in Scotland probably as they were then, or that was 2022, so that was a bad year for Tories as well. Let's see. This could be an SNP gain off of the Conservatives. Could also be a Liberal Democrat gain off the Conservatives. I do believe the Liberal Democrats do quite well around Dunbartonshire, so that would be what I say on that one. And that's all we've got next week. So with that is the end of this by-election roundup for this week. So thank you everybody for watching. Please do leave a like on the video. It helps greatly. If you haven't yet and you've got to the end of the video, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel. We love growing this community, and the more people come and join, I see it in the comments, you guys get involved, you do bring your sort of local expertise and knowledge, which is great. It really helps the channel. So thank you all for getting involved, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.